Hi, everyone. My story starts in the 6th grade. The 6th grade is when I got my very first boyfriend. I had a boyfriend. His name was Sam Palmer, and we held hands, and that meant that we were in love. It was pretty perfect and idyllic and adorable. Sam asked if he could hold my hand, and I said yes on the bus, and that made it fish. It was nice. We were in bliss together. It was a cute, perfect, young relationship. We did cute things for each other. I would get him copies of fantasy books, huge tomes of fantasy literature that he would devour and then recount to me as I pretended I was interested in him. It was fulfilling. He would get me sweet gifts. One morning, he walked up to me at the bus stop and presented me with a bouquet of pine cones that he had collected from his driveway and then painted with glitter paint. Come on! Glitter paint pine cones! I'm still waiting for that kind of fulfillment in a relationship. This 12-year-old had it nailed. Arts and crafts, hearts and I loves you. This was not Valentine's Day, nor my birthday, nor any special occasion. He just saw a pine cone and said, "Caitlin, I'm thinking of you right now. And that pine cone needs to be glittery before I give it to you." It was really sweet, and we had a plan together. We were going to stick together, Sam Palmer and I. And 6th grade was our time. It came and went, and it was the summer, and we were still palling around together all the time, still holding hands everywhere we went. Everywhere, everybody knew it was Sam, Caitlin, Caitlin, and Sam. And the summer fair rolled around, and Sam invited me to go to the fair with him, which of course I would. And we both saved our allowance, and we bought tickets, and we went into the fair together. I remember this is one of my favorite years at the fair because the people who were selling us tickets were forced by some horrible contractual obligation to wear propeller beanies while they were selling the tickets, which is like the only time as a 12-year-old you're going to feel cooler than a 15-year-old. That's it. That's the prerequisite, is that 15-year-old is wearing a propeller beanie. That is essentially the only leg up you're going to have until your senior year of high school. So that was exciting. And we went in to the fair, and it was a wonderful, regular old fair day. There were corn dogs, and there were funnel cakes, and there were rides. And Sam and I liked different kinds of rides. We indulged his first, which were the kinds that flipped over, and I liked the kinds that spin around. We were going to do mine later in the afternoon. But we stopped for lunch. We stopped for lunch at the little fair grotto area where there were like ears of corn on a stick and spaghetti on paper plates, just fair stuff. And we had our plates, and we were seated at the table, and we were almost done when Sam started to act a little bit weird. He stood up from the table before he had finished eating, and with his husky figure, that was rare. I mean, husky at the time. Now he was essentially like a boy cover model, but husky for the era. He stood up and he just started to act real weird. He kind of started to ook, 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 ook. Around the table area. I was a little bit unnerved. That's not exactly what I was expecting. It got a little bit louder. Around our table area, monkey shrieking. There was some feigned feces throwing happening. It got a little bit awkward. He then went into Beavis mode where he flipped his t-shirt over his head. I don't know if you remember this era in children's television, but there was a character named Cornholio who recessed his powers by flipping his t-shirt over his head and exclaiming lots of weird things in lots of weird voices. So my boyfriend at the time is running around with his chubby kitty titties and a floppy belly with his t-shirt up over his head, flipping over our spaghetti plates and knocking the sticks our corn was on all over the place. Blah, 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 pointing at me, kind of laughing, and then he just ran away. I was sitting at a table covered in spaghetti, confused, alone, too full, a little sick, feeling kind of awful. I look up, there are people that we go to school with, and they have seen the whole thing, and they cannot breathe because of how hard they are laughing. They are just doubled over, and I'm alone, and I am being laughed at, and I don't even know what's happened. Sam has been nothing but like the paragon of boyfriend perfection, at least as far as I know. I mean, all we've ever done is like hold hands and exchange pine cones, but that's all I needed. And until this moment, I had never understood that our love could be anything but perfect. We were Romeo and Juliet with all the love and none of the tragedy, and suddenly I was plunged into a tragedy of Shakespearean depths. I had no idea what to do. So I decided it was my time. This is my fair, and Sam can't ruin it. I'm going on the rides I like. It's time for spinny rides. So I venture across the fairgrounds toward the Gravitron. I don't know if you know what the Gravitron is, but the Gravitron, like if kids, little kids, like preschoolers, they'll spin around to get dizzy, and that's the earliest example of children getting high. Have you heard that? The kids who like to spin circles are the ones you gotta watch real close later on. The Gravitron is that, only heroin. It just whips you around in these ridiculous circles, and you're on these little panels that slide up the wall of the ride because of how fast you're spinning, and I thought it was the greatest thing that humankind had ever invented. Of like, we've been to the moon? Forget that. I've been on the Gravitron. Do you know what that is? You are 4 tickets away from paradise, my friends. And then I found weed and forgot all about the Gravitron. But before weed, there was the Gravitron. So I went to the Gravitron assuming that would be my sanctity, my safe space in the fairgrounds, and I was plunked up against the wall ready to start spinning and feel my panel slowly slide against the ride, and I looked over, and the kids that were at the spaghetti booth were in the Gravitron. It's big, they looked across, and there they were. And they laughed at me, and they pointed at me, and one of the little dudes flipped his shirt above his head and laughed like Cornholio. And my face slumped, and the ride started, and I sullenly slid on my little panel up the wall, like spinning both literally and figuratively on a shame spiral on my insides. It was just the worst. Like this day it started, it's kind of the best. I was in this perfect, idyllic relationship at the start of the day. At the start of the day, I was at the funnest time of the year, at the fair. At the start of the day, that was only funnel cakes and good times. And here it was, dusk, both in my day and in my life. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm mopey and sad. And then I looked up, and I saw a mutual friend of Sam's named Weston walk toward me. And Weston said, Sam has something he wants to say to you. And I said, well, yeah, I don't have anything I want to say to Sam. He's like, that's okay, just come on. So he called me over, and I walked with Weston to the kiddie side of the fair. Why are we even over here? We're not little kids. This is where little kids go. And he's just, come on. And he puts me in line for the Ferris wheel where Sam comes to join me. And he says, I'm really sorry, you don't have to, I'm not going to talk to you. Well, you don't have to, just wait, come on, it's going to be, come on, it's okay, come on. I won't talk to him, and I won't look at him, but he waits with me until we get on the Ferris wheel, and he pays our ticket, and we get on. And we're sitting on the Ferris wheel, and I'm just skulking, and he still hasn't explained himself, and I don't know what's going on. And the Ferris wheel goes up how it does, and you know that it stops so you can get the view, and it goes all the way up, and it stopped, and we're at the very top. And he turns to me, and he said, do you remember you got me a copy of the Elenium? And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of the books you read are. He said, well, you did. And in the Elenium, when the mighty noble warrior Krang was wooing his lover Elise, he embarrassed her, but he knew how to apologize. And he leaned over and he kissed my cheek. And I turned to look at him, and he kissed me right on the lips. And that was our first kiss. Either of us. That was the first time either one of us had ever kissed anybody else. And he did it perfect. And that he lowered all of my expectations. And then far exceeded them, more than I possibly could. And I was crying a little bit. And he just gave me this big old hug. And he said, I'm sorry, I didn't want to ruin your day, but I sure did want to make it. And we held hands, and we smooched on the mouth with no tongue for a whole nother year. And the two of us were adorable together, but we're not married, and it wasn't that perfect textbook romance. We broke up in the 8th grade for the reasons kids broke up. I think I wanted to grow up a little bit faster, and he wanted to stay young a little bit longer. But we're still friends, and I never let him forget how good he was to me and how good he always is. And I can tell you for sure, well, we did get back together in college. It was kind of adorable. We traded some notes, we hung out. Turns out we both had boyfriends that looked a lot alike, which I thought was pretty quick. That's cute. Hint, ladies, glittery pine cones are your first clue. But we're both really happy now, and Simon gave me a really great lesson at 12 years old, and it's one that I've never forgotten. Love does hurt. Love will always hurt, but it hurts a little bit less when you love somebody who really knows how to say they're sorry. Good night, everybody.